Well, hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Purposeful Marketing Podcast. Aaron and Mary are here with a very special guest today, Kevin, a long life friend, also another performance marketer, to kind of share his expertise. And the topic we're really going to dive into is one we just did, and we loved it so much we're going to do it again, and that's TikTok. And specifically, why we brought Kevin on today is because he has a TikTok and he's very good at it. And I want him to just kind of be the subject matter expert in the room, and Mary and Aaron ask him questions so you, the listeners, can kind of get that inside look of like, what does it take? Because last time we told you, can this work for B2B marketing? But you may be asking, well, how do I actually do it? And I think that's an important question. So before I pass it to Kevin, I just want to pass it to Mary, just in general. You've still been doing TikTok. We just did an episode. Do you have any other thoughts to kind of frame this episode for our listeners?
Yeah. So since the last episode that we did, I've been doing, and I talked about this subject with Kevin recently, actually. And I've noticed, we talked about the LinkedIn echo chamber recently. So just that everybody's kind of sounding the same people are engaging on your posts, and then you're kind of getting diminishing returns. So I'm putting forth the same effort and not getting the returns that I once was. So not as much engagement, not as many impressions. And when I analyzed my TikTok content, even though it gets, a fraction of the eyeballs that my LinkedIn post will get, the engagement on TikTok is much higher. So the way I'm measuring engagement on LinkedIn is likes to impressions. So any type of reaction to an impression. And the way I'm measuring it on TikTok is a heart or a like on TikTok to the number of views. And my engagement rate on TikTok ranges anywhere from like 7 to 15%. And LinkedIn, it's like 1 to 5%. So just thought that was an interesting little tidbit since the last time we talked about TikTok is I'm also noticing engagement rate is higher.
That's super interesting because I think as we dive into this, there's just so many anecdotal things of why I think TikTok's more engaging. And it's going to be super obvious when we start talking about it in comparison to LinkedIn or Facebook. If you have not listened to the last episode, I'll plug it here. I'll be a good podcast host. It's episode 21, Can TikTok Work for B2B Marketing? And we really talked about the strategy. If you have to make that case for yourself or your company, why would you? So dive into that. Again, what I want to start with Kevin here is really just your story, man. Like, how did you start on TikTok and how has it evolved now? Because I know the outcome, but maybe you can take the listeners from like when you started to where you are now.
Sure. So I started on TikTok like most folks. Well, actually, it was right before COVID. TikTok, I feel like it's been around since maybe, I think 2015, 2016. It was Musical.ly. Now it's rebranded as TikTok. But it was like late 2019, early 20. Somebody showed me the app and was like, hey, there's like a lot of funny videos on here. And that's the only way I consumed it. I didn't know it anything other than that or like the lip syncing. And I was very confused when I first got on it. I felt like, an old person, like how they say they feel when they get on social media. I'm like, what are these buttons? There's so many new buttons. They're like the interface is so different. It's like when you first got on Snapchat or something, it's like, why is this not easy to use? And so, and a lot of people might be scared of TikTok for that same reason today. So that's why I bring that up. I was like, I have grown up on social media. Like I've been on MySpace since like 2004 or whatever, and I still got on TikTok and I was like, what is this? But that is just the name of the game. Like everything is new and different. And I didn't like necessarily grow up doing all of these things, but I've learned how to do them like anybody else can. So I got on TikTok. It was funny videos. I spent quite a while sort of just messing around, like making different videos, like trying things out about like my interests, trying to make like funny videos or like recording like cats in the neighborhood or whatever, like just stuff like that to like feel it, like taste it. I didn't just go in like diving in like I'm going to be a TikTok expert or whatever. I wanted to actually get my feet wet, and I consumed a lot of content. I knew that the organic reach on TikTok was insane. Like that's the thing. You can create an account, have 0 followers, post your very first video, and it could go viral and you could get like 10 million views on it. That's never existed before. And that was
Yeah.
what intrigued me.
Kevin, can you talk a little bit about why that is? So why on TikTok can you get so much traction as opposed to other social media platforms?
Yeah, great question. So TikTok is based on the interest graph. It is not followers. So like Instagram has kind of gotten to the point where there's no organic reach. Or at least a couple years ago, there's like no organic reach. The consumption is high. It's sort of the direction LinkedIn is moving in. You have a bunch of the platform launches, they have content coming in. LinkedIn a few years ago was like, we're going to behave like Facebook. We're going to have creators create content, and we're going to push that content out because we want as much people as possible creating that content. So then we can fill the pipes with ads. We're going to have good content, get users on, fill the pipes with ads. Once you reach that point, when the ads start coming and there's a lot of people producing content, the consumption goes down, your organic reach plummets. It's just what happens. It's happened on all of these platforms. It's the same game over and over. It's going to happen to TikTok. But we're in a moment right now where there is unbelievable consumption. It's still 100% based on the interest graph, where I could create a new account now, have 0 followers. I make a video about like cupcakes that somebody thinks is funny, and they share it with their friend, and that starts a cycle. And I wake up tomorrow and I have 5 million views on it. So it's not about followers. It's like Instagram is at a point where it's like almost like email marketing. You build a list and then you push the content out. That is not how TikTok works. Followers do have a little bit of importance, but it's mostly about the content itself. The content itself is important. It's not really about the followers like you've learned on other platforms.
Totally. Something I do want to point out that is just interesting is, again, it's hard to even find followers on TikTok. Like if you don't know like the profile name and you're like, man, I saw that piece of content, I want to look for it. I don't know if that's intentional or not, or maybe Mary, if you have any thoughts on this, but it's just like, sometimes I can't even find the person I want to follow. Because again, it's just so based on getting you the content you're interested in, not necessarily about the person who's producing it.
Yeah, I hear that so often, Aaron. I'm so glad you brought it up. Is like, I found this funny video, but I can't find it again. I don't know who created it. I don't know where it is. I will say, I mean, if you spent a decent amount of time watching it, they might show you another one of that person's videos. But the easiest way to do it that I found is like hit that little plus icon next to their head or save it. But yeah, I think that's so interesting. Like, in any other social media thing, you would see that person all the time because it's follower based, to Kevin's point. And now it's like you see them once and they're gone.
Totally. Okay, so this will pivot us to the next topic because I'll steal your line, Mary, where the riches are in the niches. I think this is the other fascinating thing about TikTok is if you go super deep on topics, if you go super authentic on topics, like what do you want to talk about? I see that having a lot of reach on the platform. And that's going to relate to you specifically, Kevin. Again, do you want to talk about the content you started creating, the content you ended up creating now? Again, why was that authentically you? Why did you do that?
So what really clicked with me is when I started seeing people do the green screen content. And if you're not familiar with that, you may have seen some of it it's really popular on TikTok or Instagram or even like Facebook now. But TikTok is an amazing tool that makes it so easy to like edit and create really professional videos just in the app. Nothing like that has ever existed. So when I saw people do the green screen content where basically you can just like put a photo in the app and then it does the green screen behind you. You don't have to have a green screen. It just does it. And so they put a video up there and then they just talk about it. And that to me was like the click. I was like, production value does not matter. I don't need a studio. I really, really don't need like lighting or anything like that. I can just screenshot something off of TikTok, put it behind me, or screenshot it off Google, put it behind me on TikTok and just talk about it. So I was like, I can talk about anything I want. And what I have decided to do is talk about old like 90s Nickelodeon shows and stuff like that, because that's something I just end up talking about on the daily. It's something I like. And so that's what I'm talking about on TikTok. Luckily, that subject attracts a lot of people. But that's what I've been doing. And that doesn't mean that is what I will always create or post. Sometimes I change things up a little bit, but whether you're talking about 90s Nickelodeon or you're talking about your specific industry, you're talking about industrial manufacturing or something like that, you can green screen, take a screenshot of something, green screen it behind you, and talk about it like the expert you are.
Love that. Okay, so why we wanted to talk about this, so I can bring Mary back in, is we've talked about personal branding content and distributing that on platforms. We've talked about our why. That's the purpose of the show. So that's the why. Okay, great. You can create content that's about your why, and it can be about anything. That's like super powerful, right? I think the idea too with TikTok is you can do marketing, but maybe you can add that extra layer of you. Where LinkedIn, again, we've talked about this before too, the echo chamber. It's everyone's sounding the exact same. What I always tell our listeners is we want to hear specifically what you think, your why, what makes you you. You can talk about marketing in that way. We can all talk about demand gen, right? But in your own specific way, that's what people want to hear. Now, Mary, now that you're both in LinkedIn and you're both in TikTok, personal branding content, like which one do you like better now?
I like better is TikTok for sure. Like hands down. The only thing that's keeping me from producing there more frequently is the time to production. So I can get on LinkedIn and write a post in like 15 or 20 minutes. At this point in time, it probably takes me closer to 45 to make a TikTok video. So it's just busy time. It's Q4. So I haven't had a ton of time to create it. I really wish I did. So my goal has been 1 or 2 per week. And I've been hitting it so far, but I would really like to do it like as much as I do LinkedIn, which is like 5 days a week.
Totally, because another concept we've been talking about is just the saturation of us doing the same things over time. And I think this is the beauty of what Kevin's saying is you can just go try it, go test it, right? And maybe you'll find something you love about it. Now, and as a marketing strategy standpoint, to bring that back, you can't always do that. Like, again, our listeners, I get you have a job and you have results and you have goals. But what you can take out of that is like lean into that curiosity, right? That's like the powerful of the why. We don't have to do it the same way everyone else does. Let's try this out. Let's test it. TikTok is a driver and platform to do so. Another idea I do want to dive into, which is one Kevin and I, we already talked about, but I'm a film major dropout. I did Industrial Marketing Live with Nick Taccone. It's there. Go watch it. We talked about film. If you don't have that video expertise and skill, well, guess what? You can still make TikTok videos like a snap, very easy. You don't have to be an Adobe Premiere expert to do so. To me, I think that's what has made the platform explode as I've observed it, is because anyone can make content. It doesn't have to be super polished. Kevin just talked about it doesn't have to be, high production at all, right? It just needs to talk about that niche, that expertise, that interesting content. But the platform is by far the most easiest platform to create video. You have any thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it takes all of the excuses and throws them completely out the window. Like TikTok is the most like it's the most incredible video editing I've ever seen within just like one app. It makes it so easy. All the filters they have, like I said, the green screen. But not only that, I think the consumer, their appetite has changed on the app, especially like something really high production value. Sometimes it does well, but I've really seen no correlation between somebody using a super high definition camera versus their selfie camera. Like people are just used to watching videos that were recorded like this to your face. And whenever anybody comes to me like with advice or like they're like so crippled, like how do I get started? Like I don't have this or that. I'm like, neither do I. I literally I sit my phone on my computer. I have like a $15 ring light like in my face, and I talk at my phone, and I have like I have videos with 500,000 views. I'm not special. Like anybody can do this. And if anybody comes up with any excuse or whatever, the only excuse is you don't have a smartphone.
Yeah, totally agree with that, Kevin. 100%. So really the only thing those people are really lacking is like curiosity and like just the initiative, like just jump in.
One other tactical thing I want to talk about is, again, just these differences with TikTok. So one we talked and discussed a little bit in the last episode was how audio is really a big platform driver. And again, how I explained it is the audio itself becomes a trend. If it's from a song, if it's from a movie, it becomes memeified itself, right? So that gives you an extra layer to put on your video. I think that is completely different, although other apps like Instagram has features like that right now. Kevin, do you have any just thoughts on, again, the audio component of TikTok and like how you can use that to your advantage?
Yeah, I mean, you can always like attach something like with a trending sound. I've even seen people like if they want to use a sound that's trending, like, and what I mean by that, if you don't know, if somebody, if an audio is trending on TikTok, that means that people are using that audio on in the background of their video a lot, and a lot of those videos are getting a lot of views. So you can hop on that trend and be like, I want to sort of ride that bandwagon. And say you don't necessarily want to do like a lip syncing video or a dance video or anything like that music heavy. You could just put one of those trending sounds like behind a really low volume behind what you're saying. I don't use sounds very often. In what I do, you don't have to do that. But you can mess around with audio. But you could also like take, sometimes there's like funny, like 15-second audio of like people talking back and forth, and people will use that and like relate it to whatever they're trying to talk about. I mean, you could use that and talk about like B2B, some kind of like B2B marketing thing. Like you can relate it to anything. Really, you're right, Aaron. It's like you have the audio, the video, visual, like it's all, every element you can use to your advantage on TikTok. But you don't have to do one thing or the other, which is really cool.
Definitely. And this leads me into the next idea about how do you scale, right? Again, in marketing, you have to scale your activity. We've pointed out, the three of us, that TikTok is really scaled in a very interesting way. And I'll kind of set it up, and then Mary, you can kind of add your insight. Is since it's so easy to create content, since you have the video capability, the audio capability, you're seeing more content created than ever. Now you're seeing that content distributed on other platforms, right? We all joke that a lot of our first TikTok experiences were maybe we were on Facebook and we saw TikTok on Facebook, like in a community group. Totally wild. Mary, you want to kind of deconstruct that more and talk about it?
Yeah, so we were just like kind of doing like a prep call like right before this, just like talking through our main points. And I was like, what's really interesting is I noticed I started doing this right away as soon as I jumped into TikTok. And I noticed Kevin does this for his cool 90s old school Nickelodeon TV shows. Is TikTok is the original. So we'll create content on TikTok first and then distribute that across other channels. And like Kevin even has some great tips on how you can remove the watermark and stuff like that. But the cool thing is that's still the original platform. So we're creating it TikTok first and then branching out. So I just thought that was like a really interesting thing. And if we're talking about scaling, and if you should get on TikTok now, the answer is yes, because we're seeing TikTok repurposed everywhere.
Understand. As I've been doing my own individual research, as I mentioned last time, because I'm doing it for our own agency here, we kept asking the question, should we just repurpose our podcast content for TikTok? Kind of, again, what Mary's saying and what we're pointing out is like, no, do it the other way. Can you start a TikTok, learn from it? Does it go viral just because it's interesting content? It's very specific niche content. Great. Now turn that into a podcast episode. So I think that in and of itself is just very interesting. I think will change the behavior of some marketers. Kevin, I'll give you a chance to comment on that. And I'm going to pivot us to one more topic here. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you can go either way. You could like say you have your long form, you have your podcast. If you have someone on your team, or if you are savvy and you have the capacity to chop it up into small bits, that would work well on TikTok. that makes sense. You want it to feel native. You want it to be a vertical video. You don't just want to like slap anything out there. Um, but you could do it that way, but you could also work the reverse, like we're talking about, create your content originally on TikTok. And this is a really cool thing too. It's almost a way to test. Like if you have a topic idea, you make a TikTok about it, and then if it resonates and it does well, then you think, okay, let's expand that out and make a long form piece of content, or even like let's make an ad and run that from something that did well on TikTok. So yeah, I mean, it's I use it. I use TikTok as like the content pillar strictly because it's so
Mhm.
easy to record in there. But there's a lot of ways that you can use it. It's really cool.
Perfect. Because my next topic was ads, the native ads on there. And just again, for people, our listeners, and everyone else talking about this, they may not have experienced this before. But when we say native ads, I feel like that term is just kind of thrown out there. But when we say native ads for TikTok, it's you don't even know it's an ad, right? It's again, these advertisers are getting smarter to make sure the organic content looks exactly like it needs to on the feed. It doesn't distract you. Even the platform itself, how it's kind of designed, it doesn't inherently kind of obviously show you it's an ad. There's certain things we can pull out, kind of let Kevin speak about that more. But generally, again, it's part of the platform, and that's really important, right? When we talked about content, what is it supposed to do for the customer? It's supposed to help them. You know, when that ad and that message doesn't fit with the market, that's where you don't have that resonance. But TikTok almost forces you from developing ads to actually have message market fit and actually have content that helps customers because it needs to look like actual organic content. You have any other thoughts on TikTok ads, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok says it themselves. Their like tagline for their ad product is "Make TikToks, not ads." Because it's true. Like they don't want that in-feed consumption disrupted. And I've actually been really impressed with how it's worked. Like somehow I was one of the last people to have ads show up in my TikTok feed. But when it started, I did not really feel like bothered. It just felt like, oh, this is another video that I probably would have scrolled past anyways if it's something I'm not interested in. Like it doesn't feel disruptive. That's sort of the nature of the platform. But the ads themselves, you're right. Like you want to basically, I would say if you're making ads for TikTok, make several different iterations of it, different ideas, run them as organic pieces, see what works, and then take the best one and run that as an ad. So literally make it as an organic piece of content first.
I think that's a great suggestion. Now, Mary, again, as a strategist, you have to articulate, will this work for the client? Do you think you'd propose TikTok ads? I'm just curious.
No.
Yeah. All right. Short
But
and sweet.
there's a very specific reason why most of our clients just aren't good at running organic content.
Mm.
So if they had someone, and we could do it, but it's honestly not cost effective for the client. It would cost them a ridiculous amount of money. So we do have one client who I can think of who's really good at organic content. They have a podcast that's going well. They have a community that they foster on LinkedIn. And we were in a meeting like a month ago or something. And the guy asked me, he's like, he's like, oh, you're on TikTok? And I was like, yeah, I just started, just experimenting. He's like, do you think there's a place for us on TikTok? And I was like, heck yes, like for sure. If you can nail organic content on another channel, then I think you can go to TikTok.
I love that I asked you that, and I love your answer. And I think, again, when we ask the question, can TikTok work for B2B marketing? Yes. But what we're saying is you need to make organic content, not choose the route of let's do paid media because we can get directly to the customers and we can get ROI. We don't think that's going to work right now for TikTok. However, go test it. Tell us, did it work for you? I think that's where we're at in this marketing landscape with these kind of new channels. As far as ads, is like, got to validate it, right? Is we don't really know. So that's homework for the listeners here. Getting back to the story that Kevin's telling us, I think it's really important with this idea is one of the best indicators of success is just doing it for a long time. And that's what I kind of want us to end with here is because what we haven't asked you yet, Kevin, is where does your follower account start, where it is now? Your views, where it started, where it is now? I know it's much greater. Do you have any just general thoughts, comments, tips on just starting and keep going with it for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's like you need to, whatever you're talking about, it needs to be something that you like talking about. Otherwise, you're not going to want to do it. Like, and even if it's business related, like don't just choose stuff because you think you have to talk about that. Like you're not going to last. Um, so yeah, consistency is really important. And also like as important as consistently posting is replying to your comments, like engaging with the people who are actually paying attention to you. You're not going to build unless you start actually engaging with your people. So, I mean, where I started at 0 followers, like everybody. Like I literally joined whenever I join like a social media, I don't sync my contacts with it immediately, because I want to mess around. Like I want to figure out what this thing is before everybody comes and follows me. So I started out with 0. Nobody knew I was there, and I was posting for a while and like didn't get a whole lot of traction. And then once like I said, when I found the green screen thing, I was like, I can do this. I can talk about anything I want. I started doing it, and uh, probably really started taking it like seriously like 6 months ago, and now I'm at 46,000 followers. Um, and the thing is too, it's like if I would have started talking about this kind of content in April 2020 or before that, whenever I got on there, like I probably would be at several hundred thousand right now. Um, so it's like people look at social media influencers or people who have a lot of followers and they think, oh, they're so lucky, or it's like, no, they worked really hard. Like they posted consistently, they replied to their comments, they engaged with their community. They also adapted because things change on these platforms really quickly. You got to be able to adapt. And yeah, that's where I've found success.
That's so awesome, Kevin. One, I appreciate you for coming on and talking about the nitty gritty. Now, Mary, you were just kind of starting your TikTok journey, but what I love with what Kevin said is the idea about time. He just said it took 6 months to get that many followers. If you're going to do anything, time is a factor. How are you thinking about time with what you're doing, Mary?
Yeah, I went into it knowing I wouldn't get any traction for 3 months. I was like, I am not even going to like measure any modicum of success for 3 months. Now I'll do it like, oh, this video subject matter got more hits than others, so maybe I should try and create more like this. So I'll use it to evolve my own content, but I would never use it as like an indicator of success. So I would never say, oh, my video counts are dropping off, so I'm just going to drop off the platform. If this was like, 30 days in, I'm going the full 90, I want to check it out the whole time. And Kevin's right. The more consistent you are, the more consistent your viewer count goes, the more consistent your followers go. Like it's only going up for me right now because I'm new on the platform and I'm creating content semi-consistently. So yeah, I would say be consistent with it and stay on it for at least 90 days if you're going to give it a go.
Heck yeah. Well, you heard it, listeners. Start now. We'll work together. We're going to wrap it up here. I love these kind of tactical episodes because they're fun to talk about. But if you have feedback, DM us. If you have questions, ask Kevin and Mary. They're the experts right here. Shoot them a DM on LinkedIn. Kevin, you have anything you want to plug? You're also a musician. I don't know. You have the space.
Give it your handle.
Sure, yeah. Listen to Kevin Earl on Spotify.
Perfect. Yeah, and then what's your TikTok handle for people?
It's Kevin Earl 93. It's my first name, middle name, year I was born. So Kevin Earl 93 everywhere.
Awesome. And also, Kevin is a performance marketer at Gorilla 76. So if you have any performance marketing questions, ask him. Would love for him to come back so we do a recurring performance marketing podcast episode. Let's do it. But that's all, folks. Appreciate you. I'll let you go, and I'll say James' famous last words. Peace.